Morning. You guys asked me a bunch of questions. I think I want to answer them for you. Manuel writes, how did you get your start in tabletop RPGs? Thank you for the question. And the way that I got started in tabletop role-playing is it was junior year of high school. I walked into Mr. Mayo's science class, and there was a dude sitting at one of the tables, and he was looking at cards, and I thought maybe they were like baseball cards. And at first I thought that he was the teacher himself, because he had this flaming red beard, just like a full beard. And I asked him, I'm like, hey dude, what you doing there? And he's like, magic. Really? Yeah. Well, not real magic. It's Magic the Gathering. It's a card game. Oh, okay, cool. So I asked him, like, can you show me how to play? I ended up going back over to his place on the weekend, and he taught me how to play Magic. And then next thing you know, I'm in some dude's basement that I've never met before. Ironically, it wouldn't be the last time that happened. But suddenly I'm in some dude's basement that I've never met before, and we're playing Mage the Ascension. And that was the first ever experience I had with tabletop role-playing. David, favorite character you have ever played? So my favorite character that I've ever played, it's going to be a tie between Panthro, who I played as a Jedi in Star Wars, who was Treka Haranzi, and in Legend of the Five Rings First Edition, I played a one-armed ninja named Jubei. Wilfredo, how do you balance work, wife, kids, and streaming? Wilfredo, Willie, great question. Now here's the truth. I'm gonna throw it out there. You want to know, how do I balance work and streaming and YouTube and kids and wife and family and all that good stuff? And the answer is I couldn't. Part of the reason that I took a year off of dedicated content creation is because I couldn't do it. I was working a full-time job, more than full-time job, because it was a traveling job. So I was working 40 hours a week, plus traveling 20 hours a week, plus streaming, plus gaming. I was in like 4 games a week, 3 or 4 games a week, yeah. Plus I was streaming on top of that, plus I was trying to create content, and everything suffered. Everything suffered. All of it suffered. It was awful. My work suffered, my personal life suffered, my kids didn't see me enough, my content was garbage. Not garbage. It was room for improvement. A lot of room for improvement. So I honestly had to jump back from it. I took it all apart. I said, look, what's most important? Family, job. And I focused on those 2 things. And slowly but surely I have been adding things back in, little by little, starting with like these videos. I'm jumping back into YouTube first because that's what I enjoy, because it allows me to work on things. And I don't have to stick to a schedule other than putting out videos on a regular basis. I don't have to ask people to meet me for a stream and then not be able to do it. I think that's awful. Some of the content creators out there right now that I watch constantly take nights off at the last minute, like, oh, no streaming tonight, guys. It's like, I wouldn't want to be that kind of streamer. So long story long, I couldn't handle it all. And so the things that were most important to me were suffering, and I'm getting back into it now. A little more zen, a little more, hey, we're gonna do this right. April, what advice would you give to young people who want to get into streaming on YouTube and other platforms? April, that's a great question. And the answer is just do it. You know, if you want to make content, if you want to stream, as long as you meet the age requirements, go out there and do it. Because right now, especially if you're a young person starting out creating content, it's perfect because there's no expectation from you. There is, and as you build a following and you build a style, you will attract like-minded people. And so now is the best time to go out there, experiment with different styles and different platforms, and see what it is that you like to do, and see who it is that you like interacting with. And it's entirely possible that you're going to decide, you know what, it looks cool to do, but I don't want to spend the time doing it myself. And that's fine too. You know, this is the time when you're young, you want to figure things out, and, you know, figure out who you are and what you want to do, and, you know, why not do it while everybody watches anyway? David, what RPG content do you feel is either missing or poorly capitalized upon by the industry? Tabletop role-playing games have a ton of representation of genres all over the place. I mean, we're talking, you can get games that are Dungeons and Dragons to all the way to Cthulhu Mythos style games. So I mean, like, there are all kinds of games out there that you can play. So I don't know that representation is so much the issue, is that where we see a disproportionate amount of representation is in the mainstream. Shows like Critical Role really brought Dungeons and Dragons to the forefront and brought it into the mainstream, and it's like people are like, wow, look at this cool new game, and I'm like, yeah, first time, son. The problem that we run into with gaming is that there are so many smaller companies out there that are making great games that nobody sees because it's not part of the current consciousness. It's not in the mainstream yet. But I tell you, go to websites like DriveThruRPG and you will find a amazingly wide breadth and width of games out there that you can choose from. If you go to, like, even within a single system, maybe like GURPS from Steve Jackson Games will show you so many games, so many genres, so many settings. It's not even funny. We've got really unique stuff like Rifts out there, which I'm not sure if Palladium Games is still around, but if they are, man, boy, was that an amazing setting. So just take some time. If you want to find a particular genre, I guarantee you there is an RPG out there for you. Salty Zeal says, nice to see you making vids again. So what are some of your favorite games? I saw you weren't the biggest fan of Shadowrun, and I saw you run 5e a few times, so I was curious what games you were genuinely passionate about. Salty Zeal, thanks for your question. Top 3 are going to be Legend of the Five Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, Star Wars. Best RPGs you can play. Charles Smith writes, 2-part question. What's the most recent book you've read? 2. How many of those swords do you wield at once? Hey Charles, thanks for the question. I appreciate you taking the time to write. And the most recent book that I have read was actually Fate of the Jedi Apocalypse, which was the last book in a 9-book series on the most recent, I guess you call them, they're legend stories now instead of extended universe, or they're not canon anymore, but I still love that timeline. And boy, was that a wild ride. If you ever get a chance to check out that whole line of books, Fate of the Jedi, you will not regret it. Now, as to the second part of your question, how many of these guys do I wield at once? As many as I want. As many as I want.